It's another day, another month, and happy new month to you. My name is Sarah Otieno. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. And today, this beautiful evening, you can contact us through the WhatsApp number 0786316316, also through the SMS line 20316, on Facebook and Twitter at Family Radio 316, as we get to look at some of the stories that are making headline in our country and also across the globe. Did you know that today is International Day for Elderly Persons? Well, if you didn't, it's time to celebrate our elderly persons within our communities, within our families. We'll be having a discussion about that a little bit later. But for now, let's dive into the stories. Ruto allied legislators have issued a statement shortly after leaving a closed-door meeting at the Jubilee headquarters in Pangani today. The 32 members of National Assembly and the Senate attended the afternoon meeting. Led by Meru Senator Mathika Linturu, the Ruto camp dismissed claims that they had staged a coup, saying that Jubilee is also their party. Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome, who was in attendance, said that the leaders had met with the DP over lunch at the offices, while retaliating that the Ruto wing is still part of the Jubilee outfit. Wahome said those in position will not take blame for the government's failure. On dissolution of Parliament, Wahome said that the advisory from the Chief Justice will form part of the National Assembly's agenda in the coming week.
Is being questioned by the CJ advisory for dissolution. We do not think that is a light matter. It needs to be discussed. All jurisprudence and scenarios need to be agreed upon, especially by the party in power. May I say, this, therefore, does not amount to a coup of the party, because you cannot cause a coup on your own party or house of government. So therefore, can I rest your fears, the media? I don't know where you got those issues from. It would be unfortunate if anybody called you and sent those kind of propagandas. I think we are safe and we are home.
President Uhuru Kenyatta kicked off his official visit to France yesterday evening in Élysée Palace, where he was received by his French host Emmanuel Macron. Élysée Palace is the French president's official residence, and upon his arrival at the palace shortly after 9 p.m. local time, President Uhuru inspected a guard of honor mounted by the French military at the start of an elaborate state reception ceremony. Now, the two heads of state then witnessed and signed the 3 bilateral agreement before leading their delegation to a state banquet hosted in honor of the visiting Kenyan president, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, Kenya's ambassador to France, Professor Judy Wahungu, said that Uhuru's visit is a continuation of a historical bilateral ties that have existed between Kenya and France for over half a century.
One of the biggest discussions and one of the most important discussions that we're going to have on this particular trip is the commuter railway between the CBD and JKIA Airport. Our aspiration is to see that this commuter railway project, first of all, eases traffic in Nairobi, but it also eases movement of people within Nairobi. We hope that along the route and the surrounding areas, other businesses will be able to grow.
Well, some of the things that they were discussing, as it is said there by the Kenyan ambassador to France, Judy Wahungu, she says that one of the things that they're focusing on is the railway, commuter railway, that is from the CBD to JKIA. Let's wait and see what the president comes back home with after this visit to France. Now, Kenya today has recorded 184 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, and this is after a sample size of 4,700 were tested. Now, the total caseload of COVID-19 in our country stands at 38,000, 713, that is 38,713. Now the positive cases, 170 were Kenyans, while 14 are foreigners. And out of the total number, 110 are male, while 74 are female. While the youngest of the positive cases today is from a 2-year-old baby, and the oldest is from an 88-year-old person. At the same time, we have 115 patients that were discharged, and 67 out of that are from home-based care, and 48 are from different hospitals across the country. Regrettably, however, we lost 7 more patients to COVID-19. Now, our condolences goes out to the friends and families of those that have succumbed because of COVID-19. Text us using the WhatsApp number 0786316316 and join our discussion today, also through the SMS line 20316. All right, moving on. Operations in Kitui County government were paralyzed after workers took to the streets to protest over the delayed salaries. Kitui County government employees have not been paid for over 3 months now due to a budget impulse between the county assembly and the county executive. This is after Governor Charity Ngilu rejected the budget estimate which the Assembly approved on June 30th, 2020, citing extensive amendments as opposed to the 1% legal threshold. Benjamin Munyalo, who is the Kitui Workers Union Secretary General, said the pull and push between the governor and the MCAs has seen the workers go without wages and salaries for July, August and the month of September.
Mwezi wa 8, mwezi wa 9 mpaka wa leo tukupata mshahara. Wafanyakazi wameuliza swali, wanauliza kama tulimefanya kazi na miezi imeisha, manyumba imefungwa. Wafanyakazi wengine pia, hata mabibi wametoroka. Niambia na jamaa mwingine alisema kwamba sasa niko kwa shida. Bibi yangu ameenda, kwa vile nikimwelezea na niambia nimepeleka pesa kwa ile nyumba nyingine. Ndio leo tukamua Your Excellency the Governor plus the top leadership. Hao wafanyakazi wako mbele yako. Wamekosea nini kwa county government ya Kitui kama hatujapata mishahara? Na ni nini imeleta shida? Tumeambiwa stori mingi, lakini leo mko hapa. Tungependa tuambiwe haki ni nini na pesa tunapata leo ama tupate.
Once it is approved by the county assembly, it goes for gazettement. Once it is gazetted, it will be put in the IFMIS. So I have reason to believe, working around the clock, by Tuesday, Wednesday, you should have your 3 months salaries in your accounts.
All right, there we have the governor of Kitui County, Charity Ngilu, promising the employees of that county that within some days they will be getting their salaries. And again, this is for the good of the common mwananchi in that county, because if the county employees are not taken good care of, then effect iko wapi kwa the common mwananchi, and we are talking about the Wanjikus on the ground. Calvin Warongai, thank you so much for tuning in today. I also see Diana Ochieng, asante for tuning in. Naona pia Sam Wanakuri, and you're saying happy new month. I am on and you're listening online. Thank you so much for tuning in today, Sam. Now, voting is underway in the Orange Democratic Movement Party nominations for Msambweni by-election. Now, ODM supporters are casting their votes in 60 polling stations in an exercise that kicked off at 6 a.m. today morning. The 2 contestants, Omar Boga and Nicholas Zani, cast their votes at the Jogo Grounds polling station and Mwakigwena Primary School polling station, respectively. They both exuded confidence and the process, and they said that it would be free and fair. Now, some voters, however, complained that their names were missing in the register and demanded for the IEBC register.
Sisi tunataka tupige kura, sisi kama Wakenya au sisi sio Wakenya. Tunataka tupige kura wenyewe. Tuambiwe jina lako hili tupige kura. Hakuna vifungwa zile karatasi. Tupigeni ile ya foleni ya zamani.
Lakini kitu ya kushangaza leo nimekuja hapa, jina inasemekana haionekani, nimetafuta kila mahali wanasema hakuna. Tafadhali mimi naomba maofficial wakubwa wa ODM wajaribu vile inawezekana, watumie hii file ya EIBC kwa sababu akina mama wengi wamekuja, wazee wanakuja, wanarudi. Hii lista mimi natumika hatujui inatoka wapi.
Kila ambacho tuliagree na our commissioner ambaye amekuja kusimamia uchaguzi ni kwamba register itakayotumika ni ya IEBC, sio ya ODM. Lakini it's unfortunate watu wetu kila wakienda, some presiding officers wanakubali kwamba hiyo register inayotumika sio ya IEBC, ni ya ODM. So wakijaribu kupiga simu kule hawapewi majibu mpaka kufikia sasa. Lakini watu wengi kwa kusema ukweli, kama Mwamambi, Mwaroni, hapa Jogoo, kila mahali Mabokoni. Alafu tatizo lingine kufikia sasa, vituo vingi kufikia sasa vielekea saa 4 havijapata materials.
All right, all the best to the candidates and the people of Msambweni in the by-election that is ongoing right now. Over 1,000 residents from Garetti South will spend the night in the cold after their houses were demolished to pave way for the expansion of a railway line that is passing through that area. The owners say they were not served with any notice prior to this demolition.
The unfortunate thing is we didn't even get a notice ya kuambiwa ya kwamba tunakuja kubomoa kesho ama tunakuja kubomoa next month. Leo asubuhi tumesikia tuanze kutoa vitu kwa nini. Now where do we start? Where do we go from here? This is the place that we have known kama nyumbani. Tufanye nini sasa? Instead ya kuwa na sheria ya kuambia vitu kama vitu zako zitakuja kuondolewa, upate nafasi ya kutoa vitu zako, lakini si kuja kutolewa tu vitu hivyo.
Mimi leo ni tarehe moja yenye nilikuwa nimerudishwa kazi. Sijafanya kazi even 2 hours. 30 minutes tunarudi kuanza kutoa vitu. Hii wajatuchapia vizuri. Hapa wangesema tu watupe notice ya kubomoa. Alafu kila mtu angekuwa amejiseti. Sasa sasa hii hakuna mtu akona pesa. Tunaanzia wapi? Hata kama ni serikali wangechukua opportunity ya kutuambia sasa sasa hii nyinyi mnatakana mtafute nyumba. Lakini sasa sisi tunaanzia wapi?
Wajenga. Na hizi nyumba zimevunjwa juu wajenge zao sasa serikali. Juu sasa hizi nyumba wamevunja za mzae. Sasa hizi za serikali hatujui venye zinaenda na zimeanza kujengwa kuanzia Kibira.
Na hii serikali bila inatupeleka sio poa. Tumetoka kwa COVID tena tumeenda kutafuta manyumba tena. Tuko na nini? Tuko na watoi. Sasa tutafanyaje? Tutawapeleka wapi? Lakini Uhuru bila ametupeleka hii raundi, yatupeleka poa.
Well, there we have it, and it's very sad to see over 1,000 actually people spending the night in the cold because their houses were demolished. I believe that there is a better way of going around this. Now, parliamentarians were happy today, and this is after Sirisia Member of Parliament John Waluke today brought the parliament to a standstill as he reported back to the parliament days after a court released him on bond. The MP, who was in custody for almost 4 months, was last week released on a cash bail of 10 million Kenya shillings, pending appeal of his jail sentence in a multi-million shilling corruption case. The entry of the lawmaker interrupted the businesses of the House as colleagues jubilantly welcomed him. Nominated Member of Parliament David Sankok was forced to apologize for clapping his hands loudly as he welcomed the lawmaker who was appearing in public for the first time since he was released.
Honorable Sankok. Honorable Sankok, you are out of order. And let me get the intervention first by Honorable Chris Omala before I get to Honorable Sankok, who is totally out of order. What is the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm rising on a point of order over the conduct of Honorable Sankok 001. Of course, we appreciate the entry of Honorable John Waluke. And as Parliament, there's a way of communication. He has been here for 2-3 years now. Is he in order, Madam Speaker, to start clapping the hands and the manner in which he has conducted himself? Of course, we recognize Honorable John Waluke and we welcome him. Thank you.
Say something?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to apologize because I was just excited.
Apologize for what? Apologize, you must contract.
Because of clapping my hands, because of the entry and banging the table. Because of the entry of Honorable Waluke, all of us, he's a colleague, we are actually excited. Honorable Speaker, remember I don't have legs. So when I'm excited, I have to use whatever I have. Now that it is God that did not give me the legs, He gave me the hands and the mouth. So I use the hands and sometimes the mouth. kwa sababu siwezi nyimwa yote.
We have no exception for conducting ourselves differently. You know what you can use better.
It's interesting, you know, that as people are suffering somewhere else because they will be spending the night in the cold, we have our members of parliament jubilating because, all right, one of their own is back. As my producer says, that is food for thought. Anyway, the Cabinet Secretary of Labour, Simon Chaligui, addressed the press as well as persons attending the International Day for Elderly Persons here in Kenya. The CS pointed out that that as a country, we need to nurture and protect the elderly persons as the government is committed to helping them, and this is demonstrated through the implementation of social protection programs throughout the country.
The pandemic has brought to light some of the underlying structural weakness, not only in Kenya but also around the world, cutting across sustainable development goals on poverty, eradication, good health, education, income, water, sanitation, economic growth, reduce inequalities. Older persons are confronted by higher risks during pandemics. Therefore, it is imperative for governments like our government to put in place interventions that will help reduce the vulnerabilities. According to 2019 census, the population of older persons 60 years and above in Kenya is 2.7 million against a population of 48 million Kenyans, which constitute approximately 6% of the country's total population. And that tells you that it's not easy.
Well, and as we celebrate this day for the elderly persons across the globe, our elderly persons face challenges. And earlier on, I had an opportunity to speak to Gertruda Chemirmir, who is the managing director of Pinnacle Home Health Services. And this is what she had to say about the challenges that they face. Well, Gertruda, thank you for joining us today. And I know this is a special day for you personally because you interact more with the elderly persons. Well, before we go much into details about this topic, how can we categorize an elderly person? How do we define elderly persons?
For us, we start categorizing elderly people from the age of 70. Mm-hmm. In some cases, depending on your abilities, we can go down to about 65. Mm-hmm. But normally we start off from at least 70 going upwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm interested to know, what is the age of the oldest person you have interacted with, if you can remember?
103.
Wow. Yeah. Those are the ones we call the blessed ones, you know, because reaching that kind of age.
Yes. With her full teeth, with how she had all teeth. There was not a single, she had not lost a single tooth.
What?
At the age of 103. Can you imagine?
Well, that's amazing. That is really amazing.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Wow. And now, as you interact with these people, there are so many challenges that face elderly persons, but I believe that only the few or the nitty-gritties are brought to the attention of the public. So as an expert in that field, what are some of the challenges that affect these people that have advanced age, if I may call them like that?
Okay, I'd start off with loneliness. Huh? Mm-hmm. A lot of the elderly go through some serious loneliness. If you talk to majority of them, will tell you the same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, the lack of social centers, you know, where they could interact, we don't have. Mm-hmm. Depending on where they are they still in Nairobi? Are they still in the city, or have they gone back home? Mm-hmm. Back at the village, it's a bit better because you always find here and there, you know, there's a lot of movement. You know, people come and visit you for the lucky ones. Mm-hmm. But across the board, you find the number one issue is loneliness. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is the lack of good medical care.
Wow.
It's expensive. Our medical institutions are becoming more and more expensive. And due to the lack of, in most cases, the elderly are not insured.
Yeah.
So how much are they able to access? If they can't afford it, then you're relegated to to cheaper options, which really in most cases are not the best. So it's the lack of good medical, the ability to actually access good medical centers and treatments, I would say that would be the second biggest issue. Because as you get older, of course, you start having underlying issues. Even if you were lucky in your younger days, you didn't have, in most cases, especially lifestyle diseases check in. And then a lot of the, diseases or ailments that are prone to people who are aged. So whether it's the arthritis, osteoporosis, there's just so many that check in. And treatment is expensive.
Yeah, and you pointed about that, and something has come into my mind, and this is abuse for the elderly, which is being experienced in our country, unfortunately. Yeah, and what kind of abuse? Is it emotional, physical, and there's also the issue of financial abuse? Yeah, what kind really faces the elderly persons in our country?
It's all, it's actually all tied up together. Because you find that the elderly become very vulnerable. So depending on who you choose as the person that you rely on, in most cases they take advantage of you financially, which once they start abusing you financially, then everything else actually spirals, into the loop. So you find that the financial you get abused financially. After a while, it becomes emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, depending on. It really depends on who you choose to be your caregiver, and you give that sense of responsibility.
Okay.
And it's sometimes it's so difficult because we tend to choose maybe relatives. In respect to, I would rather actually invest that responsibility in probably like a home care professional agency, whereby you have someone who oversees the caregivers or your nurses. So they come home, they inspect, they check, that really lessens the abuse in so many ways. You find that especially like for the elderly who have children in diaspora, and the children take that option of let's go with an agency to give the care, look after the that goes so much way better than you deciding on, okay, let me choose this relative versus this, because you really never know. You never know actually someone's intention. As you get older, people take advantage of you.
Well, you've pointed out the fact that people need to consider the use of professionals and maybe an agency to take care of their elderly persons compared to relatives. And it reminded me of a story, and this happened somewhere in Taita, whereby an elderly person was beaten up and accused of being a witch, practicing witchcraft. And this apparently is happening not only in one community, but in different communities, unfortunately. And maybe... could this be as a result of entrusting our elderly persons to relatives who at the end of the day take advantage of the elderly persons, as you said?
Yes, yes. Because it's unfortunate. In the current world that we live in, for us to get to a point where we calling an elderly person a witch. The first thing that comes to my mind is the people like the chief and other stakeholders. Where were they? How did they investigate it? You know what I'm saying? For you to punish somebody by calling them names, I think it's just a way of taking advantage of the person. Whether it was financial or some means. I don't know if it's land. There's a lot of, I think in Kenya we have a lot of disputes with land, and sometimes we look for excuses such as those to take advantage of of a person. So I'm not too sure. I didn't hear about it, but I'm very sure because of the person's age, he was not able to, you're not able to actually stand up for yourself and and defend yourself. So you find someone else taking advantage of you. So I always say it's best once you get to a point where you really do need help, you need assistance, help. You've identified that you need help, or your children or your siblings have identified that you need help, then it's always best to go to the professionals. Let the professionals do what they are best at doing, and that's providing care. And that way, it lessens the issue of being taken advantage of.
And even
with professionals, I'm not saying that it's blind trust. Of course, you must have their boundaries.
Okay, well, Gertrude, before I let you go, do you think as a community and as a government we've done enough to take care of our elderly persons? There is this project known as Pesa ya Wazee, That's how they call it. Yeah. Do you think as a government and as a community, the Kenyan community as a whole, have we done enough to take care of our elderly persons?
I don't think so. I think we are far from it. I don't know how exactly the Pesa ya Wazee goes, but I believe it's a small stipend that they are given.
Yes, they're given a stipend monthly.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the dynamics are and how much they are given, but let's agree when our economy right now is such that everything is so expensive.
Yes.
So the stipend may assist to a certain point. Yeah, I would have to do a bit more research in trying to understand how exactly it works, but I don't know how many of the elderly benefit from it.
Thank you so much, actually, for shedding some light when it comes to taking care of our elderly persons today. Now, in other news, the government has launched an exercise to identify forest cut lines following persistent skirmishes linked to land ownership dispute that has rocked Naisut, Mariashoni, Ndoswa, Kaprop and Kapnoswa areas in the eastern Mau Forest in Nakuru County. The Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea said Kenya Forest Services is undertaking a multi-agency operation to reclaim parts of the forest within the Mau Forest Complex.
So tunaanza from mali ambapo iko tabu, tunasuluhisha tukiendelea mpaka wapi? Mpaka mwisho, maana watu wameumia kwa miaka mingi. Hakuna mtu ambaye angependa watu endelee kukaa namna hiyo kwa miaka yote. Kuanzia 1992, 93, 94 watu wakuja wengi mpaka sasa hiyo over 25 years. Watu bado wanahangaika tu. Sababu kubwa ni hii. Watu wamehangaika kwa sababu tumewaachia watu wengine ambao hawaelewi mambo ya hapa kuja kusuluhisha shida ya hapa.
Wakubwa mnaangalia tu hii yetu. Mweka maneno mingi ati watu watoke. That's what I cannot allow that to happen.
Sasa muko hapa, mtuweke chini nyote kama jamii. Msaidiwe na serikali saa hizi kama mnataka kusaidiwa nyote.
So hii dunia hii, hata kama mheshimiwa huyu deputy speaker ameenda kotini, sisi kwa serikali tunajua kwamba tunaingia hapa kuja kuformalize government forest kupatia watu. Kwa hivyo tuache story mingi. Na kama serikali nasema kwamba haikudigazeti shamba, serikali inasema wewe unapinga serikali namna gani? Kama waziri anasema mimi sikudigazeti, wewe unasema uligazeti. Based on what? On rumor. Sasa hii kesi imewasaidia nini? Hata leo wewe deputy speaker ukienda kotini, ikae kotini, watu watajaa hapa tu.
They call him Mr. Natembea, the strict and straightforward person. Now, a section of Kenyans have protested the rule enforced by the National Transport and Safety Authority, requiring drivers to wait for a period of 2 years before proceeding into another driving class. Drivers in Mombasa yesterday staged protests outside the NTSA offices as they aired their grievances against this rule. The protesters, mainly comprising of youths, claim that the rule is aimed at frustrating them and stopping them from getting employment as drivers.
Hii tuna appeal NTSA, we feel they are misusing their powers. Inakuwaje kijana aweze kusoma class C, B na aweze kufanya akitaka class C aende tena shule? Who is checking NTSA by the way? NTSA inaangaliwa na nani? Wawe ndio wako na system, wao ndio wanaweka, wao ndio wanatoa. Hao vijana wanalia wanasumbua shule. Sasa ni kama hatuna amani.
Niling'ang'ana, nikaenda darasani, nikakopa pesa, nikaenda nikafanya mtihani, nikapita kihalali na mtu mwingine akapewa lisensi yake. Sina kazi naweza nikafanya Kenya hii. Hii ndio nilikuwa ninategemea. Na sasa ndio hiyo imekuwa haiko kwa system. Imesunguka Mombasa mpaka Nairobi yote.
All right, that is happening regarding the issuing of licenses and driving classes by the NTSA. Now to some rather sad news, and police from Baragoi have been called out and faulted for harassing minors who had arrived at Bendera village for a football match. Now in the tussle, 4 kids were left with broken limbs and others with serious head injuries.
Ni aibu sana gari 10 ya polisi kutoka in the name of operation na kuingia kijiji ya Bendera na kutoa watoto kama ndani ya kijiji. Wakapata mama moja elengiwa amejifungua 2 days ago. Wakavunja sanduku, wakatoa shilingi 2,500.
Umiswa tayari ni watoto 4. Wale wamevunjwa mkono na ule amepasuliwa kichwa.
Kama ni hii kitu nilikuwa nakuja kufanya, hata Matiang'i mwenyewe anafaa kuaibika zaidi. But they want to tell the whole world and the whole country, this is the work of police in Baragoi. This is where the taxpayers' money are going. They wanaenda wanawashika hawa, then they justify them in the form of billions of allowances in the name of operation for Baragoi.
They have no shame to bring children like this and call them bandits. These are it is the police themselves who are bandits.
IPOA must swing into action because police brutality in Baragoi is not bearable anymore.
Well, this was a result of the insecurity issues that are being experienced in that area, and the small children were mistaken to be enemies, what they call bandits. Well, that's relatively sad there. Now, Stone Crush's owners at Chaka, that is in Nyeri County, are on the verge of closing their businesses, claiming that they are being targeted unfairly by the Nyeri County offices by double taxation of lorries ferrying quarry materials from the quarries. Now, Peter Ndegwa, a crusher owner in one of the areas, say that about 6 crusher owners have closed their businesses and moved to quarries in Kiambu over the losses they have encountered.
The last 6 months nimeasha juu ya hii maneno ya double taxation. Na ile sababu tunasema double taxation juu ule halipi tax kama hawa Chinese, they end up wanaweka ballast yao price chini. Sasa mimi nikiweka juu even with the 200 shillings hakuna mtu atakuja kwangu because wanasema bwana tununue kwako na kuna mchaina anauza rahisi. Na hiyo ndio imenisubua mpaka nikafuga, and nilikuwa na watu wa kazi wale wana depend on me 40 people. Hao ndio nimeambiwa waende nyumbani na waende wakalime because hiyo ni vile naendelea.
Tuko na shida moja. Ile shida tuko nayo ni mambo ya cess na kajo. Kajo mimi natoa mawe ile kwa just opposite to Chinese. Okay? Lakini mimi nikichukua yangu.
Let's head over to other stories internationally. And the Britain's government has been criticized for confusing messaging over a raft of the new coronavirus restrictions, with even the Prime Minister apologizing after misinforming the public in a televised briefing. Boris Johnson used Twitter on Tuesday to say sorry after he misspoke when he failed to clarify whether people from different households could socialize outside under the new lockdown measures coming into force in the northern eastern England, where infection rates have spiked.
Another day and another set of COVID-19 rules laid out by the government, this time for the people of the northeast. Boris Johnson says extra restrictions are needed here, but the Prime Minister got into a bit of a muddle when asked to explain what his new laws actually were.
In the northeast and other areas where extra tight measures have been brought in, you should follow the guidance of local authorities. But it's 6 in a home or 6 in hospitality, but as I understand it, not 6 outside.
What he meant to say was that the new guidelines for the northeast ban people from mixing with others outside their household or social bubble in indoor settings, and that includes pubs and restaurants.
I'll just show you this clip.
In Newcastle, we showed shoppers what the PM had said, and there was general confusion about what any of it meant.
I was messaging family and friends yesterday. What can we do? What can we not do? And nobody kind of, oh, I didn't know that, really? You know, and very vague. The Prime Minister's words cleared that up for you? No.
If he's going to tell the rules, obviously he needs to understand them before everyone else understands.
Everyone's a bit muddled up with everything that's going on, so some people are wearing masks, some people aren't, and it's causing a lot of ruckus in the country.
The Prime Minister has since apologised, but his mistake came only a few hours after one of his ministers admitted not knowing the details when asked the same question on the radio. Boris Johnson's critics say all of this has seriously undermined faith in the government.
The fact that the Prime Minister himself doesn't know what they mean doesn't fill anybody with any confidence that the rest of government knows what it's doing either.
Well, if you ask me, that is what I would call good leadership. When we have the Prime Minister apologizing for a mistake that he did, or rather a mistake that the government did, that is good leadership. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show today. My name is Sarah Otieno. I wish you a very blessed and happy month in the month of October, and I pray for God's blessings upon you and your family. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.